All right. All right. So what's up, y'all? My name is JayHigh. I'm representing the Indie Visuals, and I'm proud to be sort of adding our first interview in a long time to the website. And I'm just completely. We were just talking off camera about just the amazing music that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm proud to be in the presence of a person that played a key role in crafting and bolstering the soundscapes that define the mid to late 90s. The late 90s was such an integral time for me as a listener and for so many people. And that it was really a crucial bridge in like and was an era for so many genre defining artists such as DMX, Jadakiss, Busta Rhymes, the late great Big Pun, countless others who were building upon their legacy, recording their second and third albums, their sophomore releases, and prepping their legacies to endure for the ages. It was producers like the individual I'm gonna talk to today, DJ Shok, who laid the creative foundations for these MCs to carve out their legacies. I always feel like these artists were really bridging the gap from that pre-streaming era to like the streaming era. And it's people like DJ Shok who have had such a profound amount of experience and can share this knowledge and wisdom to artists who are coming up today. I want to welcome everybody to the illustrious DJ Shok. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? Thank you for the big intro right there, man.
I've been out of the game for a second. I had to prepare a big intro. I'm trying to make sure I
felt like I've been out of the game for a very long time, so I can relate, man.
Yeah, it's man.
It's like, it's on and off, man. As you get older, it's like you take hiatuses, you grind again, and I think it's like a normal life thing,
Yeah,
as long as you keep moving and other things come up and you kind of put time into those things and you slide back into the music, because the music is a special part of anybody's life who really loves music or makes music like yourself and me, like it's always going to be there. Like you can run and hide from it. You can duck all you want. You can try to do some other stuff for a while, which might even be fun, but you'll be back.
Yeah. It's like that creative energy. It's like you always like hear about artists that are like attempted to announce their retirement or their upcoming retirement. And I always kind of like look at I mean, I respect people's decisions, if I don't know them, I don't have much to say about it. People can do what they want to do, but it's like when you have that creative spirit, it has to evolve and you can't run from it. You can't like really retire, you know what I mean? It's always going to come back to find you. I feel like
but it needs a breather sometimes, like anything. It needs to take a rest, a nap, like us, like it has its own life. It needs rest. So no matter how good you are, how prolific you are, it needs to breathe, man.
Absolutely. So just like to kind of begin this discussion, share a little bit about your trajectory, how you came up, sort of how you got your start, and who was like some of the people that inspired you to get into the game, to start producing and to start kind of getting into that world.
I'll try to like shorten it as much as possible because I mean it really started for me with when I was just a little kid. My aunt, she was playing a record on Enjoy Records by the Funky 4 plus One More. I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And to this day, I still remember, I was like, DT Wilma, I was like, what is that? Because it was different. I loved disco. And, at that time, and I walked around with my little tape recorder as a little kid. I was fascinated by music already. I had, I was into the record collection already and whatever people were listening to, but that was different. And that's why I was like, what is that? Because they were rapping and it wasn't like nothing I'd ever heard. and that was the first time that I encountered hip hop rap, and so that was like the first introduction.
Sure.
And from then, um, like my next phase, I would say was uh Aldo Moren, who actually owns Cutting Records,
Okay.
and he's like, you know, he's like my mentor pretty much in the business. He was DJing my sister Sweet 16,
Okay.
which was probably no more than maybe a couple years after that. Maybe I was about 8. I was in like first grade probably, and I was fascinated, bro. Like I kept going up to the DJ booth, and he was playing records, and he kept messing around with me and playing like the Wicked Witch of the West, like a drop or something. Like, you know,
Okay.
my party's just beginning. Like, you know,
That's awesome.
so he kept doing that, and I had so much fun just watching what he was doing. And that was the first time I wanted to be a DJ. And I also had a drum set, so I would like play records like by the Go-Go's, and I listen to all kind of music because in my family we listened to, you know, my brother listened to some rock. There was all kinds of music, Spanish music, all kinds of stuff. So I used to
Yeah.
play the drums to the Go-Go's a lot because it was kind of easy because they had that "We Got the Beat," the boom boom tat tat boom boom
I was
tat
just
tat.
when you said it, that was like
Yeah,
that's
and it
always the song
was
that pops in my head.
and it was so easy to play that as a kid
Yeah.
that I just loved it. You know, I just to play it straight through the song because it was an easy one to play. And from then, like when I was
It
about
has a
10,
cool like lead in to the hook too. Like their verses on it, it
oh
like
my God,
changes up and like builds
I,
up.
I
It's
love that.
actually
It's
like
like
a
I'm
really
glad you
good
actually
song.
know that record
Yeah, man, it's a
because,
good
you
song.
know,
I
not
I can't,
everybody even
yeah,
knows it. But no, but I love the Go-Go's when I was
yeah.
I mean, I'm really little at this time, so, and I love the Go-Go's. And so, you know, from there, I guess I was about 10 years old when I got like my first DJ set, and it was like a used beat up. My sister bought it from somebody and they got it for my birthday. It was a Spectrasonics mixer with like these beat up little belt drive techniques. I think they're the SB202s or something like that. It's just a mess, and I used to have to push them along, like, you know, because the belt drive wasn't
Yeah,
working. So
know all about
then,
that.
and then I was just like at that time, Red Alert was just like everything. One day I was stayed up late and I had my little box in my room, and I heard hip hop come on at night, and I was like, what the? And from that point for years, I would record in my room. I would record Red Alert, and then in the living room there was another stereo, and I would put that on BLS and record Marley Moore
Wow, so you were going like
because it was at
it's
the
like
same
double
time.
duty, like
Yeah, they were
taking
playing at
over.
the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah,
And then Marley was playing records that Red wouldn't play because Marley was Queens more. So like he would be playing all the Juice Crew stuff, and then Red Alert would be playing like, you know, like Rock M, and like, you know, like he was more like, you know, like KRS, anything or if anything like Ultramagnetic new,
yeah.
he'd play it first. So like that's like my roots really. And then around fast forward to when I was about 16, my cousin, he was a producer for house music, and I was at his house and I saw he had an EPS 16
Yeah.
and Sonic, and I didn't even know that's how you made records. So I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh my God, that's how they make these records that I listen to. And I'm like, from that point on, I was so fascinated. I still DJ'd a little, but I was so fascinated with the making of a song. And I was like, oh my God. So then I would go to his house and he wasn't really using it much. So I just stay in his room. He'd go to work. And I just stay there.
That's
And
like
I
the
used it
best,
more than
right? When
him.
you get like the chance to just kind of like
Yeah.
do something without anybody like around, you can like,
That was the coolest
yeah,
thing.
man,
And he
it's
saw how much
amazing.
I loved it. So he just was like, go ahead, man. Knock yourself out, man. So I would go over there with like 5 or 6 records, and I had planned out stuff I wanted to do. Like, I'm going to use this for the drums.
Sure.
I'm going to use this. And I would do stuff. Then by 18, I had some money that between DJing parties and different stuff I did. And I got my Kai S950, my Roland MC50, and those were like the foundation of my sound. I
Yeah.
stayed using that stuff straight through the run, and at first I had an independent label.
Okay.
A lot of people don't associate me with this, but I mean, to this day we still do releases sometimes. It was called Mass Vinyl, and it was like a real kind of popular underground label during like I would say 96, 97. We were making some good records, like High Tech 24/7 is one of the popular ones,
Mhm.
which used to get a lot of play, like on like Red Alert. That was one of the coolest experiences ever. Was I'm driving down the street and I just put the records in Red Alert's mailbox on Hot 97. I don't know if it was,
Wow.
I think it was 97 by then. And I just I put it in, we went up there and we put them in everybody's mailbox. And I'm driving, and like 2 days later, it's like the 5 o'clock, free ride,
Yeah.
and he's spinning and he puts it on.
Oh, that's wild.
I was like, and this is something I made in my basement, it was crazy. So that record took off, and then the label did pretty good. I did a bunch of underground stuff with another label called Official Joints. And that was some dope stuff too. And then around 98, I was really working a lot with Official Joints at that time. And right around that time, that's when I signed with Rough Riders. And then from there, it goes into like you were talking about the Tony Touch record.
Yeah.
That actually happened right on the street. I was by Tower Records in the Village, and I was just hanging out with my friend, and he saw him first, and he's like, "Yo, that's Tony Touch." And then we were playing beats, I think, in out of my car, and then we called him, and he listened. And this is before it was even before, like, I don't know if I had made Slippin' or what, but that didn't even enter the conversation. It was just like, yo,
Yeah.
I was like, I was playing these beats. He was like, yo, that right there.
You
And that
just
was the
heard it
Flip
was
Mode.
like,
Yeah,
that's
that
the
was
joint.
the one for Flip Mode. He was like, yo, he said, I'm in the studio right now with Flip Mode.
So
And he
you
was like,
placed that beat like in real time, kind of like
and
that
yeah,
was
in the street.
okay.
Yeah. So I
That's
played it,
wild.
and he was like, yo, I'm in there right now with them. He was like, come by later. And he was like, and bring that with you, bring the CD. And that was the introduction into Flip Mode, which became a great relationship where I did a ton of records like in Flip
Yeah.
Mode for Busted. I did like one of Rah Digga's biggest records, Imperial.
Yeah.
And
Man,
that was like a great relationship.
man. Anarchy is one of my, like, I feel like it's the most slept on Busta album. Like
Yeah, Anarchy's
that
a mean
record,
album, man.
good
It's a good
album.
album. Good album, man. And one of the cool things too is he told his life story on my track, which was really cool. And it's kind of weird because
That's
I
wild
didn't
though
do
to
it
get
on
somebody to,
purpose,
yeah.
but I did DMX's life story record. I did Busta's life story record. I did Eve's life story record. And this one wasn't as popular as some of the others, but I did Drag On's
Yeah.
life story record on his Opposite of H2O album, which is Life Goes On, where he actually talks about his, how he grew
Yeah.
up and with his dad
Yeah,
and everything.
actually, like I listened to them all like today, and I didn't make that association that it's like it's a real, like, if they all have that somehow, like, I don't know what about like a certain melody creates like introspection.
Yeah,
So
it's weird,
it's a
man.
real gift as a
It's
producer. Like
weird.
sometimes I can imagine like either having that be intentional or being like surprised that people are
Well,
all of a sudden like record, like, wait, oh, this
what's
person is now recording their like autobiographical tale to this beat.
what's
It's
even
like, oh
more
wait,
crazy is I wasn't even aware of it until I looked back on it. And
yeah,
and even more crazy is that the first record I did on that independent label was called Book of Life, which was High Tech's first record, where he
okay,
tells his life story over a Barbara Mandrell loop that I sampled. And so I didn't even, it's not even on purpose. It just, I guess, I guess, I don't know, just, the emotion that I bring, and when I'm working and I do music, that's the way I connect, I guess.
how
It's unconscious.
how do, if you could think back to maybe those joints, do you ever have a moment where, and I know a lot of producers, because I mean, and we'll get to this like later too, is like there's like a real differentiation between, it's like the rap versus hip hop argument. There's like beat makers, and then there's producers. there's people that can make a beat and they're more inclined to share it, and hey, it has like a couple 16s and a hook, and it kind of doesn't matter. And then there's like producers that get in the studio, they guide a song, they have like an intention like behind it that they just kind of want to see like brought out, and they either reach out to an artist who they know can like add that perspective, or they pull out that perspective from an artist in the studio. um when you're in the process of making those joints, do you ever like have a vision of like kind of what you want the theme to be? Because I know like sometimes like I'll see beats that have a name, and
Mm-hmm.
as an MC I'll write to the name of the beat sometimes, and it'll like already have it'll have an intention behind it. As far as like those joints, like are they ever like parallel with like kind of what you're envisioning, or are those introspective joints like just kind of totally surprising, or do you kind of link up and say,
Well,
oh, I get it?
they usually come from a place. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, they come from a place like for example, I don't think I've ever said this in the interview, but the reason all this is fresh in my head is because I'm writing a lot of this stuff down, just like
Yeah.
because I'm working on a book which isn't really about the music business, but there's a little chapter in it that I kind of touch
Okay.
on some things. So it's kind of made me have to like dig in and remember things.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, like for example, Slippin, when I did that beat, two things, I was like in a really depressed state.
Okay.
I was at that age, like early 20s. It was 5 years old when I played it for DMX. So, but when I made it, um, I was in a place like where that place where like, especially men, when you're trying to figure out what you're gonna do with your life completely, like am I, you're still living at home. You're like really like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go to
Trying to figure it all
school? Am
out.
I gonna work? It's like one of the hardest times of our lives, I think, as guys, and
Yeah.
probably women too. Probably it's just a place, and that's when I made that beat. I was going through that, and there's sort of a song that inspired me to do that beat. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Juggernauts, but that's like a
Absolutely.
all right. So they had a record that they used to play on Barbiedo. I don't know if it ever came out, but it was
Breeze Brewing, right? Breezy Brewing.
yeah, Breezy
Yeah.
Brewing. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So shout out
Slap
to
time.
them. And
Slap time. Yeah. Yeah.
because there was a track and it was like, damn, it's time to have a man to man talking about this. And it's basically about racism and how he's dating a black girl and the father doesn't approve. And it had this really emotional beat. And I think they sampled the Meter Men maybe. Because I
Okay.
remember hearing it, I was like, damn, I think I got that record. And it was like ba ba da na 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 na, dude. And it like made me feel something so much that I wanted to make something that felt that way. So it
Yeah.
inspired me. So the combination of me being like kind of depressed, and then I had recently heard that track and wanted to make something like that. And then I stumbled on the sample, and it just put me right in that mood.
Yeah.
And it went from there. And other times too, like even the I think it was Life So Hard, the Eve record, which isn't the one about her life story, but it's kind of like an emotional one too. That one I made right after I found out that Big Pun passed away. Like I went to the studio right after because I had been working with him at basically around that exact time when he passed away,
Yeah.
and we were working on new music. So I was like, he had gone away and then he came back and he was living in a storefront, and I was kind of like seeing him, and I was like really excited about what we were gonna do, and it really messed me up. Like when I found out, like it was like it messed me up and like losing him. And then it messed me up even more because I'm just starting to get a connection with this person that is beyond just music. Like we were talking about different things, and it was like, wow, man, like, and I had never really connected that way with too many artists, and we were both Latino, so there was like this whole thing happening.
Yeah.
And I really, I felt hit, and I did that beat was originally a lot slower. It was like maybe like 76 BPM, and then when I wanted to make it into something to shop, I sped it
Yeah.
up, and I kind of like put more into it. But the piano and the main feeling of it was I made like right after that, when I found out. And so yeah,
Yes.
they come from a place for me
Yeah.
at
There's
least.
definitely some like
Yeah,
some like uh if there's some there's a place that you're going that's connecting with the artist, like in a way that where they can expose their heart, you know?
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily,
that's an amazing thing.
like sometimes like Life's So Hard, I presented that with the hook in it already.
Yeah.
So sometimes the truth is, you know, to be completely honest, sometimes I'm just a beat maker because sometimes I just put the beat on and they don't artists don't, some artists don't want or need any input because the beat has already taken them
Oh yeah,
into
they
a
just get the
zone.
inspiration and just do it.
So
And
there's
then it's
nothing
like,
you
hey,
need to do. So it's kind of like you'll get in their way. So there's times you have to kind of know, like,
oh yeah.
First of all, the caliber of artists you're working with matters too. Like, you know, when you're
Very
working
true.
with someone like that's just incredible and they don't really need help,
Yeah.
the smartest thing is to just shut your mouth and just kind of like, and if there's something you can add later, that's how I would work those situations. Like if I'm hearing something and they're just flowing and they're just recording and I'm there and I just say, all right, I don't want to interfere, but I think some strings will be real nice in that intro. I let them do their thing. And then later on, I'll like tuck in some things in the back or
You just handle some like
just some little
post-production kind
stuff.
of, yeah.
Yeah, just because that's a moment that's delicate and you don't want to mess it up.
Sure.
So it depends. Sometimes I'm more a beat maker, sometimes more a producer.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've sent like Imperial was funny because that was a really interesting one because I left the beat, I laid it, and then I had to go to California and I worked on a record that was with Beanie Man and Praz that never came out. And we went to California.
What? Like
yeah, that never came out. So Beanie Man and Praz, which was, you know, interesting. And then I come back.
That's a crazy combo.
And it's a short trip because I didn't want to leave New York too much because I was like really busy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be out of the loop right now because I'm like getting tons of work. It was like my hot moment. So, but this is the funniest thing. I seriously get off the plane. This is 3 days ago. I laid this track. I put on the morning show. I get in my car, you know, in the parking lot in the airport. I put on the morning show and Imperial's on the radio. True story. I'm like, what the hell? Like this record, I left 3 days ago, so they must have been so excited about it that they were like, this is out of here. They must have I probably laid it. They probably recorded it. I probably flew out that night or something, or the next day. They recorded it and then they mixed it and
put it out. Wow.
and you know, and I didn't have a problem with that because what I heard was amazing. And Busta knows what he's doing. He's basically driving the car there, you know, for flip mode.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, okay. It was amazing. And
that's incredible. I mean, those feelings, like people talk about like the first time they hear like their song on the radio or like all those like different emotions, but that's like an interesting culmination when you're doing like when you're traveling and like it's just, I mean, that's a good feeling to hit like
listen,
LA
it blew me away
on the radio. That's incredible.
Because to hear a song that you just
you had no idea was even
you didn't even know really what was going on. If they finished it, I had a feeling they would probably done something, and I was probably gonna go visit them and see what was going on because I used to always pop by the studio. Yeah, and I was like, wow, okay, this is great.
Yeah,
and so it happens in all shapes and sizes. You know, it's not like you know, that's why I'm not too into, you know, I mean, much respect to a lot of the guys who give a lot of advice and stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I can talk to people one-on-one, but to do videos that tell people how to do it, it just doesn't work for me because every situation is so unique that I can't give you 10 steps.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, you know, one situation worked this way for me, another one worked this way, one that way. So it's like, it's really hard to just be like, all right, the first thing you need to do is go over here.
There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's like, I used to kind of get a little, I don't know if as a young artist, I would get kind of annoyed when people would say, oh, it's luck. Because I like, you know, sometimes I think hard work kind of wins in the end. But it is like when you think about, and this is a perfect segue into like my next question was, what was the it can be either the beat or the song or whatever you did when you realized like, oh, I got some juice. Like I can
that's
do
easy.
this. Yeah.
That's easy. I mean, my even though my best experience will always be the when Red Alert played my independent record, because he was my idol as a DJ growing up. There's nothing ever could top that. But the moment you're talking about, that's easy. That's Slippin', by DMX. When I was at home and I
that
put
joint
on,
had legs, man. Like it was
God.
like
This is when I knew it. The guy upstairs from me in the apartment was playing it like every day. He didn't even know I made it. And then I put on Total Request Live. Basically, like 2 days, this kid's playing it nonstop, whoever lived upstairs from me. And then 2 days later, I put on Total Request Live, and it's number 1 on TRL, which is
what
crazy.
an amazing feeling.
It's number 1 on, then you listen to Z100. It's number 1 on Z100. I mean, forget about, the hip hop stations. It's killing it there too. But it was like, that's when I was like, wow, that was just like, and even like, one day I was down and I remember, I think I was trying to get something going and it was just frustrated. I think we were out somewhere and as Styles came up to me, he was like, Shok, you're good. He was like, do you realize that you basically, what you just did, most people in their whole career don't do. And that was a moment,
you got the one, like you got like,
it woke me up because I was like, you know what? It's true. Like no matter what, there's people that have 20 years, 30 years. And I got, and I want to speak to what you said though, because I do believe it's not just hard work. It's not just talent. And some people going to get not like this. Yeah. It's not just hard work. It's not just talent. There is, you want to call it luck, whatever you want to call it, being in the right place at the right time, knowing the right person, the right connection. Because the truth is, as good as I might have been, number one, I knew people better than me. That's a fact. One guy from Yonkers I can tell you who was better than me, in my opinion, was Jay Blen. He passed away some years ago. He was a good friend of mine. And I mean, he was Kanye West before anyone knew or even thought about, before Kanye West was even a thought. I'm talking about in the late 90s. He was doing Kanye West beats. Like with the sped up samples, like the Just Blaze.
Glenn was the high pitched vocal samples and all those things.
That was him. That was Glenn. That was what he did. Rest in peace. And so I knew, I considered him, nicer than me, and he never quite got those big moments. So I think it's a combination of it's luck, it's meeting the right person at the right moment, because you can meet the right person at the wrong moment. Because I've had good relationships with people who are pretty powerful, and we just clicked, and we would just be cool, and I would be like, man, but this guy, he's on top of the world, but there was just nothing for us to do together.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not like the stars don't align in the right way, or like numbers.
Exactly.
Are like
there's just nothing.
Like, man, like we're gonna work, and then it falls off.
Yeah, he's like got the hottest artist, but the album's pretty much taken care of because they got an in-house thing, and so it's not just even who I got it. People gonna get mad, but there is some luck. You can't just grind and then it's automatically gonna happen. There's some luck. Where you live, who you grew up with, the area that I lived in. I mean, what if I lived in, the area I lived in Yonkers, it was like you could throw a rock and you were gonna hit like a dope MC that was
you would hit like hip hop. It's like the North Bronx. I always call Yonkers like the North Bronx. Like I have families in Yonkers. Like it's like
at a certain point,
it's like you're there.
There was a moment when it was like, adjacent. Yo, like I mean, you could look at the how many rappers were crushing it at a certain moment,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's crazy to say like 40% were like in that area. You know, if you and even if you want to throw Mary into there, like there was just a lot happening, and
Yeah.
at that moment, you
Yeah. I
know.
was going to mention it earlier that it's crazy to think about because I was like, I grew up, like, I'm in Rochester. I grew up in this area. So, I mean, we're not as opposed to the entire United States, we're close to New York.
Hmm.
Being like my age, that I was kind of, you know, I was close enough to get the beginning of hip hop. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And to think back to that, you were either going for DJ Red Alert or and there was like a regional thing to it, but it was really just in New York. You know what I mean? It
True.
hadn't
Yeah.
really gone anywhere else. It was just two different boroughs who were bringing their own thing to the table. And how it looks now is like it's
Oh
just
God.
it's crazy to
Now
even think about like how
it's
like the
everywhere now.
styles have just, I mean, it's almost you can't even really go too deep down that rabbit hole because it's
No,
ultimately like it's
no,
hard to
it's
tell
just
like
right now. It's
where
just
the
everywhere. It's
yeah.
anything. It's beautiful because I see that's the coolest thing about hip hop to me, and this is why I say it can't die. And I know that's a crazy thing to say because everything must die and everything comes to an end. But
Yeah,
in a sense, I feel like if it has, let's put it this way, it's going to have a ton of longevity. Why do I say that? Because hip hop is the practice of hip hop is to take anything and make it hip hop. So
yeah,
how can you stop doing, why would you need to stop? So okay, fine. We're
yeah.
tired
It's
of taking, let's say, Asian grooves. All right, let's take these grooves. We're tired of those grooves. Let's take those. Oh, we're tired of the bounce and the drum pattern. Well, okay. Then the South comes. Then there's constant change and growth. And
it's a never ending thing because
yes,
you can explore like as a producer, as a beat maker, as a person that's looking to piece together the different sounds that catch your ear and that
hmm,
cause some inspiration, especially our ability to explore the entire world at
yeah,
this point is has like changed the game as a bedroom producer like myself. I look at like I had like a couple months where I was just super into like European like psychedelic music. Like there was a whole in like Czechoslovakia and Croatia, there were all these like bands who were hearing all the psychedelic music going on in
okay,
San Francisco, and it was somehow getting there through like touring and things like that, and they were making their own sounds and just diving into like those like interpretations of like different genres and like African music and like African psychedelic music. It just had this whole I didn't really realize until exploring it, the psychedelic music went everywhere. So then you
mm,
start incorporating the indigenous music from that area to the psychedelic sort of movement. And it was like, oh, there's like, it's turning over all sorts of
yeah,
stones and being like, oh, there's just amazing,
you
there's
know,
amazing artistry happening all over the world
it's
that like a lot of people don't hear about. And like hip hop production helps to expose those artists to the world. Like the Fugees, they had like a bunch of samples from like this same group. Um, Samande, I think is what they were called. Samande. They're like a funk group. I think they were
oh yeah, yeah,
African.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
like, oh, I saw like on the credits. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look them up and get their
Mhm.
music. And it's like this whole. I feel like hip hop production keeps like keeps artistry alive.
Yeah. It's one time I took this a long, like, man, I'm going back like 20 years. I took a class with my wife to learn how to cook Indian food. and so we're in there and the guy said something and it reminds me of hip hop. He said, because he was teaching us a dish, and I said, how come, because like we'll go eat at one restaurant and we'll order this, and the sauce is a whole nother color, and we'll go somewhere else, it's a different color, and it tastes a little different, and it never tastes the same anywhere. And he was like, well, he said, I'm gonna explain that to you. He said, every region within India has their own style. And then within that style that they have for the region, each cook is expected to put his own thing in there. So the way they do it, it's not it's a very hip hop way, because in other music, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, it's not that music. So if oh, that's not country, let's say, they'll listen to it and they say, that's not country, that's pop. Oh, that's not. So, and on, you can say, let's say it's hard rock. Let's say that's not hard rock. That's you change the drums, you put some other type of drums on there. That's not rock. Everything else is the same. That's not rock. No, that's not rock. And hip hop it's like the Indian food, where it's not expected. Yeah. You can come from the East Coast, so we know you got to put those ingredients, but you better not put those ingredients the way I do in Yonkers. You know what I'm saying? You need to, even if you're just, I'm from the other side of Yonkers, I'm expecting you to put something else in those ingredients that I don't. And now we're talking.
Yeah, something that like, where do you think like the sort of genesis of that like type of thinking comes from? Like, I feel like for some, it's like, I feel like there's producers that, like when I think of like a Dilla, I do consider his like samples and his ear for samples, but I'm more gravitating towards his drums, because he was one of those people that kind of, and so there's other producers though, like I would say like an Alchemist, like I would look at an Alchemist more from like sort of what he's chopping up or what he's like sampling. Yeah. And so everybody has like where their ears kind of gravitate towards, you know what I mean?
He's top 5 at locating some dope ass thing to sample.
Like, yeah, where do you think your ear, like, are you like where do you gravitate towards to get like your sound? Like, are you more kind of laying like some like a rhythmic foundation, or do you hear like, are you more prone to hear like a certain sample or certain song and kind of hear the whole entire thing? I know a lot of people have like a different process. What is like the genesis of your process?
This is why I can't teach anybody anything, because I'll tell you why. and they're just gonna say, can I curse? They're just gonna say you're a dick. You can take it out if I try to teach them, because this is the truth. I just mess around. How can I teach you to play around? If I hear a dope sample, I start there.
You're gonna ride with it.
If I'm going through and I hear a kick that's like, oh my God, I'm starting with the drums. If I hear, if I was listening to, let's say I was listening to Dilla, and I heard a swing that just kicked my face in, I'm gonna start the beat, the whole beat, trying to put a kick and a snare and a hat in the right place and build on that, because I want that swing more than anything. And then I'm gonna chop whatever it is, to fit. Sometimes I find a sound. I'm in going through my modules, my plugins, and I'm like, whoa, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful harp, let's say.
Yeah.
We're going with the harp.
Sure.
The harp will be a melody, and it'll set everything off. So that's why I can't teach.
Yeah, there's really no like rhyme or reason to the process. Yeah.
When I watch the videos, they have this method. They're like, first thing I do is I go over here and how can I teach? I can't do that, because I don't do. I would have to lie and then make the video to teach you, because
there's like an inspiration behind it.
All my friends are like, you should do videos. You should, because especially people I know who are producers, because I'm pretty slick with my stuff. Like I got a lot of tricks. I got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But the problem is, sometimes I do a trick once and I forget it. So what you want me to
Yeah.
do? Like sometimes I listen and I'm like, they're like, how'd you do that? Like I'm not. I think I was using. I know I was using this thing, but I would have to like open it, look at it. I don't do the same thing every time. So
I'm a I'm a big like I'm a big purveyor of like I watched the documentary Hip Hop Evolution that was on Netflix. And they were talking about like Southern hip hop and how a lot of the producers at the time didn't really have access to the same equipment that a lot of folks had. And so they were like
okay,
accessing whether it be sort of used equipment or like hand-me-down stuff to kind of make what they were making. And a person said that they were sort of working to the extent of their limitations. And that's what made the music beautiful, was that if they were
man,
in
that's so true.
like an evolutionary phase. And I know a lot of producers, I remember when, I think it was like Madlib, they were discussing how people were so surprised that he was just like, oh, I make beats on my iPad. And people were like, oh, I thought you were like, got some dusty fingers up into crates with like a old keyboard, like you're doing. He's like, nah, man, I'm just like making beats
You know what the key
on my,
is?
and I'm like,
All right.
and I always like tell people they shouldn't care about, it's almost like a game. It's like, I have really nice shoes or whatever. It's like, no, it's not about the equipment. It's like what you do with it, you know? Is there some like
Yeah,
value to that?
man, bro. This is a very important subject for any producers listening to this. Um, what I've because I your limitations can be the biggest blessing to your sound ever. Because what ends up happening is if you have this one machine, you learn the crap out of that thing. You know everything it can do. You start to get into this like it's like a relationship with the machine. And you even know that if you the mistakes it does, the this is supposed to do that, but it really works well if you use it for this, and you start to and then something happens by mistake, and but you need to spend that time with it. It's like it's an instrument. And if you keep looking for the latest thing, it's fine. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing because it's fine. I mean, you've got guys like one of my favorite guys is Ski, and I keep up on him with Instagram a lot, and he's incredible. Like this guy's doing modular. He gets a new piece of gear. He figures it out in like 2 seconds, and he's giving like showing people what he's doing with it. Not everyone's like that. I'm not. I'm not that nice. I'm pretty nice. I'm dope. Like I can hang with anybody I feel.
Yeah.
But like I bow down to Ski, and I'm like, all right, Ski,
Just
you're the
being able
man.
to
Like
just
he can just like for me,
got the good
everyone's
workflow.
different.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, what works for me, and this is gonna sound funny, like I have a computer, which is like my main workstation. I've got it on some old ass operating system. I've got Ableton 9 is the highest I can go, and I'm an Ableton guy. But on my laptop, I have the new Ableton. But on this workstation, I've decided it's been the same freaking way for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And I made a decision that this workstation is where I finish everything. I
And
can
it's
start something
just not going to change.
that stays.
Yeah.
That's gonna
This is
be where like I know this, and you know what's crazy? I'm still learning things on it. I'm still I got and I'm really things that I even were automatic. I've molded, even my plugin chain.
sure.
It's just right on. Now, if you then if I was to get and then go to my other computer, it's the updated version of that thing. It's not exactly the same. I like to play around with it, but I
Yeah.
decided that this one station is just going to stay. I'm not updating anything. It's going to stay and it works well. And I did that for what you're talking about because there's something to be said for knowing. Because see, we look at this in technology and we get so excited. Oh my God, we see a thing and it's like you can do that, and what's this new thing from output or this or that, and it's all great. And I like to play with them.
Yeah.
But I think that the way that I balanced it out was what I said, and I think it's working for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for anybody else, but it worked really good for me to have a laptop with the latest kind of updated stuff, but keep like your workhorse just
Yeah.
like it is. All you got to do, if you get a new plugin and you do a dope sound,
Yeah.
bounce it out of the new one, bring it home, and do what you do in there.
Yeah. Is
That's
that
what
like, because you're saying that's like for like the end of the process, or when you're putting like the final touches on things, it's like go to what you know, so you're
Yeah,
able to just kind of see through your
exactly.
vision. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
or write the whole thing there, whatever, you know.
yeah.
But if you're gonna play around, because it's tempting, I had to do something because it's too tempting. They're like, everything's out there for like $3 a month or $2. It's
I
too
know that's
tempting
like the yeah.
to not do that. So, I said I'm gonna do that, mess around, spend an hour twiddling with this or that, and if something nice comes out of it, I bounce it out as a wave, and I go home because I know I have what I use to chop. I still use I use weird. I've always used weird stuff. The Roland MC50 was my sequencer while everybody was bringing MPCs to the studio. I'm
Yeah.
always using something odd. And what I use even in software is called Geist. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but
I've never heard
okay. I use Geist.
Yeah.
It's I bought the newer version. I stay
Okay.
with Geist 1, the first version, because I love it, and it does everything I want it to do, and beyond that. So I stick with it, and it's like it looks like an MPC. It has a little drum machine. It's by Effects
Yeah.
Expansion. So like, I mean, the version I use, I don't even know if you'd have to like find it on like a torrent site because they don't even sell it anymore probably. I mean, I've been using it for now, God, maybe, damn, 10, 15 years. That's how old Geist is. Damn. So I've been using it that long, and it's
You're
my
carrying
go-to
it through the eras. Yeah,
it
man.
stays. I mean,
Sometimes
I don't
like
see
that
nothing wrong
comfort,
with that.
sometimes yeah, because I mean, I think like
But I
I
still
think
use, like I use
yeah,
Serato sample. I'm
sure.
still using the new stuff. But if there's something that really does it for me, I don't see what's so bad about rocking with it.
Yeah, like there's ultimately like where the technology ends and the artistry begins, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
there's a
there's really
place.
like there's like that place where you jump. And that's why I always like love to talk to people about like that moment where they knew they had something different to bring to the table, what broke them out of. It's a discussion I have with like all the time with people who are sort of looking to branch out. And there's a level where, and you can see it in just about anybody, any artist. There's a point where they take all of where they learned and put it into practice in their own way. And some people get there and some people don't. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like there's no more value to it than the other, because if you're enjoying it, hey, like peace and blessings, like more power
Mm-hmm.
to you, you know what I mean? But like there's like a certain place where people, it's like they find their voice, you know. It's a unique and cool process to see unfold. Are there any artists that you've worked with who you've participated in that process with them as a producer and sort of seen them come out of that sort of embryonic state and evolve into an artist?
That's a good question. It's hard to say because then you have to identify what that moment is.
Yeah.
It's a hard question because on one hand, does it mean I made their first hit, or does it, like, how do you define this? Because
Yeah, it
if you
could
look
just
at
be
it in
like a
a
sideline thing where you notice like, oh, like this person's
yeah,
finding their
like I mean,
voice. You know what I mean? Like they're on my
because
beat and they're like, oh, they
it,
like hit their
it
stride. They
reminds me of
found
a
their
funny
flow.
story.
Yeah.
Like Busta was introducing me to somebody like way back. I mean, I haven't seen him in like, I don't know, God, maybe 19, 20 years. But he was introducing me to somebody back then, and he's like this the he's like this the dude who gave birth to Rah Digga. Basically, because I made her first like that single with him and her on it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what you're talking about. You know, did you ever give kind of birth? But that's like in a commercial sense, you know. Rah
Yeah.
Digga probably gave birth on the Lyricist Lounge stage or something,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
so it's, you know, it depends how do you define it, you know. So it's a tricky thing, you know. I mean, I hope I've played a good role with different people. I am proud of the fact that my music gave people the courage to tell their story many times. I'm proud of that because that's not actually a normal thing that happens every day in hip hop. So I'm quite proud of that,
Absolutely
you know,
not.
that they felt comfortable enough with my music, and they just you know, they were like, I'm telling my life story on this thing, you know, and that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
And I you know, I that's like probably one of my favorite things,
It kind
you
of
know,
looks
and I
like
just
DMX is
realized
about to.
that not too long ago.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing to like it kind of make that association and be like, oh, like if you look through the collaborations, you're like, oh, like my music gets people to show their hearts, to put their hearts on a
Yeah,
string and
it's
really like put
crazy. I
themselves
mean,
out there to actually really amazing results as well. To like the fact that the world hears what they're putting out there. You know what I mean? They gravitate towards it and they hear it, you
yeah.
know? It's
Like
amazing.
if you think about it, like for example, High Tech on the independent record, you know, we did our first one. He said 1978 was the year I waked. You know, a newborn seed popped out Mom Duke's uterus, was a special day. And then Buster, you know, like that was in like 96, and then in like 2000, Buster's like he popped out of his mother's uterus. It's like, oh wow, you know, and I'm sure Buster never even put that together or even maybe even heard that record.
Yeah.
But it's like to see this common thread, you know, makes me believe more in a, you know, a higher power, something, some synchronicity, something that's happening through me uh that I don't understand, or you know, I can't explain, you know. When you
Yeah.
look back, you know, usually you see those things not when they're happening. You look back and you're like, you know, so that's kind of a cool
Totally a
thing to me, you know.
retrospective thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, you, I mean, who's that aware, right? To be like, oh yeah, you know, everybody
Oh, I'm
writes their
making the
life story.
introspective joints that are gonna get
Yeah,
there
I'm
like, yeah,
coming
yeah.
in here now, and I'm nah, 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 man. I wish I was that smart. You know, it's kind of like
If
I
only,
wish I was that
yeah.
smart. I listen. If I was that smart, I'd be like running to every artist and just giving them this perfect beat. Like, here, your life's here. I'm here.
Show
Here,
yourself on this
here's your life
joint. You
story.
know
Go
what I'm
ahead. Go ahead. It's
saying?
okay. It's fine. Here's your beat. Here's your beat. Leave
Right?
me
It's
alone.
like therapy. You're like the hip hop like psychiatrist. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
I'm like the hip hop musical psychiatrist. So and go figure. And there's something to it too, because I mean, you see me now, all these years later, I do a show which is kind of like on exploring that stuff, you know, content, and you know, it's the podcast we do, and it's kind of about exploring those things that we don't understand, the big questions, and we go to everything, science, philosophy,
awesome.
religion. We just talk, you know, about stuff like that, and you know, so it was always there, you know. Sometimes you may not be aware of something, but you're who you are no matter what, you know, whether you
Yeah.
realize who you are or not. It doesn't matter, you're still that person, and that's who you are, you know. And I think like the life journey is getting in touch with that, you know. And that's why, you know, looking back now that I'm older and I'm more in tune with, you know, from my experiences with that kind of side of life, is why I kind of notice it now. You know,
Yeah.
you got to be in a
It,
different place.
it's that wisdom. It's always like I find it always um like a good conversation to chat with people that have been able to have that retrospective of like having uh, having had their music connect to millions of people is a truly amazing feat. And it is very much like we've discussed. It's kind of luck. It's kind of hard work. It's all these different things. But if you're like able to do it, even just for a second, it's like there's just extraordinary. There's extraordinary. There's extraordinary stories and wisdom that come out of that can be shared with people, because that's kind of like what artists are looking for. Like just that one thing that connects with anybody. It's like for people that are looking to either just not be in their house making music, people that are just trying to find their legs and be comfortable performing their music or putting a song out for people, all the way up to producing like a #1 hit, a Grammy award-winning song. There's value to all of it. And a lot of times people get caught up in the end result when it's really just you're crafting a tale, you're crafting a story. And it's to have the ability to kind of connect with artists in a way that have them show themselves to the world, like who they really are, to tell their story from the start, is just is a real gift, man. Like
Thanks, man. I mean, and
appreciation
you know
to
what,
you, man.
and the right word is a gift, because I really don't believe I it's kind of like the luck thing we talked about. I really don't believe you got to put the work in, you got to be there. You can't not do anything and then expect something to happen. But it's sort of like this paradox, you can't do you've got to like be in it to win it, but you can never not do anything and then expect to get lucky. It just it's like you got to do everything, and so it's a gift, and then just in the right place, right time, a little bit of luck, a little bit of this, the right moments, right timing. And I believe, a lot of that is, I believe in synchronicity. I believe things happen for a reason. And we're all kind of carved out to do something, whatever that might be, and one of the things that I can say to people, because like you said, it's a weird thing, to do these things, and a lot of people aspire to kind of reach the type of plateaus that I've reached. And not that I'm ungrateful for it, because I'm super grateful for it, but I would like to say that, one of the one of the biggest gifts of climbing to the top of the mountain, and I'm gonna might sound like a jerk to some people, but is to realize that that's really not it. The biggest gift is not that you do the platinum record, you make the big record. The biggest gift is that you do it and you get to realize that by doing all of that, that doesn't really make you happy and complete. And that's a big giant gift, because everybody else is still trying to get that.
Yeah.
So they can realize that.
Yeah.
And you
it's like
can't
there's
tell
no destination.
that.
There's no destination. It's like you get to where you're going, but like you go
it's not gonna
until the end.
Yeah, the only happiness is going to come from within. So you can do all the stuff you want, you can paint any picture you want to people, but if you don't love yourself, and if you're not already happy before you hit that mountaintop, hitting the mountaintop isn't going to make you happy. It's just going to make you, if anything, unfortunately, as we've seen with many great artists who actually take their own lives, some of the most talented people we've ever known on this planet, if anything, it depresses you, because you say, look at everything I've achieved. People say I'm the greatest, and I still feel sad and I hate myself. Now that's a downer. If there's anything out there that's going to make you feel like crap, and unfortunately, a lot of people say, I don't understand why the person did it. I went through a dark time, and had dark thoughts and pulled myself out of it. But when I hear about those stories, I'm not one of those people who says, I can't understand why he did it. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people who say, I'm sad about it, but I kind of understand, because I've kind of been there. But thank God I pulled myself out of it, through it, and now I'm on the other side of it. And you know, that's even what the show's about. The book I'm doing, and I'm even working on an album, and it's to share the story, to try and do something good with it. You know, because it's really, you know, I know it's cliche, you know, it's the journey, it's not the destination. But like I say on my show all the time, I'm sorry everyone, but cliches are true. I'm just
That's why
call
they
them
become
cliche.
cliches. Yeah, exactly.
Be
That's why they
be
become
pissed
what they
at me,
are.
be
Yeah,
mad, whatever
yeah,
you want. I'm sorry, it's true.
yeah,
It
man.
it really isn't the destination. It really is the journey. And you know, I wish I knew that back then. I would have enjoyed my ride a lot better up the charts. You know, back then I was just
Yeah,
grinding. Back then you just think, you know, like, and it's kind of it's weird because it's sort of a necessary evil in the business to survive and to do well. You just have to keep thinking of that next thing. You know,
yeah,
I'm in the studio, we're mixing this down, and I'm already trying to get this placement over here. I'm texting, I'm I'm on my way. I got someone else there already, like filling in for me. It's
yeah,
like it's you've got to not. You almost have to not be here in order to be hot. If you're here and you're really present, it's gonna be really hard to be that hot because you're just happy to be here. If you're really that happy to be here, you won't be chasing that next thing.
yeah. Do you feel like a lot of artists get caught in that? Like, do you feel like it's still kind of like, because I know there's a big difference at this point, because like, I mean, truth be told, like anybody can put out a song at this point. Anybody can put
Oh
out a
yeah,
song and get people to listen to it. It's not like you got to record some old tapes and like you got to like pay a bunch of money. Like you can essentially record
it's
for very low cost. Do you think people kind of lose
yes,
their it's like I always worry that music is like losing, I mean, it is losing its value monetarily in a way,
it is.
but artistically, like, I don't know, how do we maintain that integrity or maintain that like foundational integrity, given what you're saying, given that there is a spiritual side to creativity and especially music, it hits
Oh
people a
heck
little
yeah,
bit. But like,
heck yeah.
what do you
You feel
think
it
like, and what
when
do you think
certain
artists,
records are being made. You feel it.
yeah, what do you think like artists, like I know because like I don't know, these days there are a lot of young artists who are conscious of that too. For like a young artist, like how do you safeguard the integrity? Like what do you do to really, what can you do as a young artist to sort of preserve the legacy artistically in a world of
Um,
oversaturation and
all right, I'm gonna try and give good advice here.
I'm trying to get you to give some advice before we,
I'm gonna
you know
tr-
what I'm saying?
all right, I'm gonna try to give some good advice. All right, so I would say if do the things that no one else is willing to do. So if you're a producer, if you're an artist, and you're saying, and you have an idea in your head, and it's gonna be like a lot of work to do that. It's like, yo, that's a kind of a dope idea, but who would do that? Because that's really hard, and I would have to do this. And like, if you're a producer, how would I get the track to? How would I convince the artist to try that? You know, to do those things that you think in your head, no one else will go that far. And that's the place where the fun happens. That's the playground. That's the joy. Because if you're just looking at what other people are doing, and you're like, gee, how can I do what they're doing? Um, I was watching that documentary you're talking about too, and that's like Jay-Z with his that record when he went on Def Jam with the shiny suits. I don't know if you saw that episode, but
Yeah,
it's on that
totally.
Netflix thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So when that's that moment, and then he said that's not me, and he had to go do something different.
Oh, where he did the
And
Hype Williams video and he looked
yeah,
all
he did the
crazy.
whole
Yeah, yeah.
shiny stuff.
That did not
So,
look good.
but so you don't want to do that. That's what I'm saying. You want to like do things that represent you, dig in, do different stuff. You know, if people say whether you're an artist or producer, whatever, beat maker, whatever you're doing, whatever, even if you draw, you write books. Go against the grain. They say, no, you don't do that. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, because if you look back, you know, I'm sure a lot of people told Public Enemy, you know, the Bomb Squad, like, you can't stack 5 drum loops. What does the matter with you? They're not even going to be in key, or you can't put like 4 different loops with different music and play them at the same time. You can't do that. But they sat there, they slowed the tape down, they got things to just sound right, and they made some of the most incredible production we've ever heard. And
it was theirs, you know, like,
and it was
like
theirs.
it was distinctly
Right.
theirs, you know.
And what about, you know, whoever started tripping up those, you know, I don't even know who it is at this point, but, you know, doing those different types of drum patterns and you know, having snares on the 32, and then, you know, whatever.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Whoever did that, I'm sure some guy was like, "What is wrong with you?"
Like I was trying to figure out, you know, who makes the like the quintessential trap, like tom fills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, like
exactly.
Those, like,
who's the first guy? Probably got a weird look, right?
Because it's great. Like, it's so quintessential and awesome. And
I'm sure plenty of people hated it. Plenty of people hated it.
Yeah.
So don't worry so much about that. If there's some different things, you're better to do those things, create something, and take the 3 or 4 years for people to understand it. Because if you just, why do I say that? It's better off not because you can't win copying people. They say that's how you become successful. If you want to open up a donut shop, study Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, that's 101, right, in business. I'm not talking about business. I'm talking about you as a human, as a person. Like, if you want to be happy, you've got to be in your zone, like you're who you are, and create at the same time. Once you connect those 2 things, now we're talking. Now we're playing ball. Now we're serious here. And if you're even willing to do things that scare you a little, now you're going to hit it out the park.
There you see. I squeezed some advice out of you, and it was actually like it was a jewel. Like, for real, it was like, yeah, man. Because it's like there's the creativity is an interesting thing. Like, you can't really teach it, but there's certain little jewels that you can hear that it create the spark that leads you to water, so to speak. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you got to be bold.
Man.
You got to be bold. Like that's a big thing.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, this has been like a real a distinct and awesome pleasure having a conversation with you, Shok. It's like I always try to show artists the utmost amount of respect and love and gratitude for really making a difference in the world, because that's what you've done with your music, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We have run out of time. I know you've kind of mentioned like what you got like going on right now, but if you just want to like tell whoever's gonna watch this like what you got going on right now, any place they can find you online, to kind of get up to speed with what DJ Shok is doing.
Yeah, man.
Let them know.
My favorite thing that I'm doing, because it's a blast, is Content Podcast. So you know, you can it's on Instagram, just by that Content Podcast, and from there you can find, you know, all the links to everything else it is. And if you want to follow me on the music side, that's DJ, and then, you know, Shok Beats, DJ Shok Beats, and that's on Instagram. And from there, you know, all the other, I got shokbeats.com if you're looking for tracks. I still put beats online. I do pretty okay on that, and you know, through BeatStars, love that platform. I've been on there for years
DJ
now.
Payne? DJ Payne one? Yeah.
That's my dude, man. We did a good interview. He's good at giving advice.
Just the best. He's the best.
He's a good advice guy. He's a good advice guy. Like I'll go ask him for advice. So, you know, that's what he does. You know, I know my lanes. So I'm probably better at, like, if you want to get deep, like life type stuff, we can do that for hours. But like real direct advice, like do this first and then do your LLC. And I'm not that dude.
He totally.
Payne is that dude.
Totally.
He's the man. Mad respect for him. And follow me because I am doing an album. I'm working on it right now, and I'm writing a book, and the book is called The Gift Wrapped Up in a Nightmare. And I do touch a little bit on, I'm still in my lawsuit with Rough Riders. I touch on that a little bit, but it's mostly about a spiritual journey and some different stuff that happened, and the album's about that stuff too. And I'm trying to be creative. I got a lot of different stuff I'm doing. It's quite experimental, to be quite honest with you. The album, it's definitely hip hop, and I'm making an effort to combine a lot of different hip hop elements from way back to now into it at the same time. It's a weird cake I'm making. It's very strange. But I think it might be delicious.
Awesome.
So
can't wait to hear it, man. I'm gonna stay up to speed on everything. Man. And yeah, I deeply appreciate your time. I appreciate your sort of words of wisdom. I'm glad I got to get some worldly advice out of you, you know what I'm saying? Because I tried my best. You know, it's my first interview in a while, but like I'm trying to work my magic.
You did it, man. You did it. It's not easy either. You did it.
You know, hey, we're back. So yeah, man, I appreciate your time, and I'll keep you posted on when this drops. And yeah, man. Have a great rest of the night.
All right, man. Peace. God bless.
Hey, Shok. Appreciate it, man.